I'm going to call to order the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners regular session to order March 16th, 2021 at 6 p.m. I'll ask Commissioner Dottie Robinson to say the invocation.
Let's all bow our heads, please. Dear Lord, thank you for this day and for the board and the citizens coming together to do the work of our county. We ask for your wisdom and guidance as we make decisions to help our county to grow and to be able to meet our needs. Father, we ask your blessings upon those who are still suffering from COVID, and we thank you for the vaccines that have been created. We pray for our county, state, and nation that we can all work together and ask for healing as we move forward. Thank you for all you have done and all that you're going to do. In thy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Dottie. The next item is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you are able to stand, if you'll stand, you'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item is the approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Hassel. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Dawson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The next item is the consent agenda.
And Chairman, I would like to make a motion that in the consent agenda, we pull budget amendment number 9. We pull it from consent so we can have discussion on it.
A motion's been made by Commissioner Dawson to pull the agenda item number 9. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Hassel. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The next item is the public forum. Is anyone here signed up for that? This is not on the public hearings, it's just for the comment period.
Mr. Chairman, maybe I didn't catch it, but did we take action on all the consent agenda?
No, we didn't. We just pulled the one, so
Just-
we need to approve the other.
Just go back and pull that.
Pull that one for discussion and approve the balance of the consent agenda.
So I want to pull that item number 9 and open it for discussion. Is that what?
I think we're going to make a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda items, and then we'll hold this one when we get into the rest of our agenda. So I will make a motion that we approve the rest of the consent agenda with the exception of budget amendment 9 that we're pulling.
Okay, Commissioner Dawson has made the motion to approve the rest of the agenda and pull the budget item number 9. Do I have a second?
A second.
Seconded by Commissioner Dottie Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Do you want to talk about that one now?
That's fine. It's up to you guys.
Yep. All right.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. So I requested that it be pulled just so that we could have clarity. I know that there are 3 pieces to this budget amendment, one being for the Sheriff's Department radios. I think we're all aware of that. One being with the 911 console and the need for that, and that's been approved, funding approved by the NC 911 board. And then there is a $349,000 adjustment for the food pantry. And I believe Mr. Manus has some additional information for us so we can have some understanding, because that brings that project to about a $1.1 million project.
That is correct. The project, the food pantry project originally received funding from the county. I believe it was in the amount of $282,000, and that was from a prior year budget appropriation. It was supplemented with $500,000 in CARES Act funding. The project was originally estimated at about $681,000, with the benefit of some specifications and a revised project cost of almost 1.1 million, 1.05 million dollars for the entire project, which takes it from about $113 a square foot to $176 a square foot. There are some notable differences that contribute to the increase and therefore the necessity of the budget amendment. About $218,000 of that increase is general construction cost. That would be the contract between the Council on Aging and the general contractor. About $54,000 is an increase from the original estimate for the walk-in cooler and freezer. $12,000 increase for the kitchen over the original estimate, and there's $50,000 that has been added for a standby generator. And I believe that is equipped with the automatic transfer switch and associated work. So that contributes to the need for a budget amendment to carry the project forward. This project was originally conceived as a partnership between the county and the Council on Aging, and I believe there was some additional joint use anticipated from other groups, perhaps the Cooperative Extension, maybe the Rescue Squad, and some other uses of the kitchen and dining area. There are some materials that need to be ordered in order to keep the project moving, and before the Council on Aging authorized the expenditure for some materials and equipment, I wanted to shore up any financing so that we could see the project all the way through. Obviously, there are some costs that are already out there. I believe the contractor has been paid not quite $200,000, and the county has some additional outlay, I believe, for some demolition work in the very beginning and an advance perhaps to the Council on Aging. I'm happy to try to answer any questions you may have, but it is a project that's in the works but is currently stalled.
Well, is it stalled because of this funding?
Weather played a big part of
Yes,
it,
okay,
but it played a huge part of it.
right.
But there are some things that we would like to be assured that the project would be fully funded before we make major orders for equipment. And that equipment is necessary in that critical path to see the project through.
And I did note that the Council on Aging prior to tonight has not been providing financial reports on a monthly basis, but will go forward, so we can see where all the money is.
Yes, the Council on Aging, we contacted them yesterday, and they agreed to provide us with some financial information. They did so quite timely, I might add, and we were able to reconcile that with information that we had, financial information, so that's good. And I will also point out that the Council on Aging did report in the month of February that they served 384 households, which equates to a little over 2,000 individuals. That number was actually quite surprising to me.
Yeah. And do we do that through Council on Aging, or does DSS support that?
DSS has some services that are independent. DSS actually does the Meals on Wheels program, which is somewhat similar in nature. Going forward, I can envision a greater cooperation through the facility. Don't hold me to that just yet, but my wheels are spinning as to other uses of the facility.
If I may, Dana,
Yes.
a lot of these other individuals are individuals that volunteers work with and help to serve and deliver, I don't know how many meals, it's over 300 meals, 300 boxes of meals a month, and then there's several churches involved
Right.
that also they pick up food and then they take it to their churches to give out to
Right.
these 2,000 people too.
Okay.
I guess the question I have, Frank, is do we know how that, I guess, the overcharge from a projected of 600,000 to where we're going to end up with 1.1 or 1.2? Do we, I mean, that's almost a double
Yeah.
cost.
So
I mean, I know you're.
I don't have an itemized list
Right.
of the the revised estimate for the construction cost. I do have some of those things that were, I guess you would say, added to the project that were not a part of the original estimate, the generator, the extra cost for the freezers in the kitchen. And of course, there's gonna be some nominal costs for sewer taps and furniture and fixtures and things like that. I do know in local government, we are all falling victim to what I like to call project creep. Costs are increasing quite rapidly. So the original estimate it's getting close to a year old. So I would venture to guess that that's part of the issue. We have a water line project on later in the agenda where the price is getting close to doubled and since the time we received original approval from FEMA to move forward. So those price increases have probably contributed to it. And as I understand it, the original quote did not have the benefit of specs to bid to. So I think those two factors contribute to that cost. I do have a breakdown of the original cost, an itemized. I do not have a revised version of the itemized cost.
Yeah, I guess going forward, we just need to really make sure that we, don't authorize another entity to be putting us in, debt or making the decisions without our approval to start with, because I remember we approved the CARES money, and I think there was another sum of money, but so that would have been about 700-some thousand, and
That's correct.
and so now we're looking at even more. So
That's correct.
But part of this money is coming from the
CARES.
agriculture extension, which they are gonna be the ones that are gonna be more or less in charge of the kitchen and using the kitchen for their classes and so forth. And then I think Rescue Squad is also gonna be using the kitchen, so that's where the additional money is, my understanding is that's where the additional money is coming from in a fund that Kevin has.
Well, no, the additional money is coming from, they're pulling capital funds that were to be utilized to make improvements, renovations to
cooperative
the
extension
cooperative
is one of-
extension. So they're
right.
pulling it, and we'll have to do that project, because that's been on the books now for 2 years and it hasn't been done. So that money's gonna be utilized to finish this, and then we'll have to put cooperative extension, their capital improvements, into next year's budget. Is that correct?
That's correct. Or make another amendment. But I don't know that we could complete some of those improvements by the end of the fiscal year. So
Right.
as we go into the next fiscal year, I would say that roof for here and the cooperative extension building and those other improvements would be prioritized.
Mhm.
So, Mr. Manus, do we have a timeline on the construction being complete on the food pantry now?
Ms. Hassel, actually, I do not have an updated timeline.
Any other discussion?
Anybody else got anything?
I do have one question. So if we asked to see an updated detail list, like the one you have from the original $681,000 bid, for next month, and we didn't approve this piece until next month, would that still be within a time frame to have all the things ordered, all the stuff that we need to do? Considering the condition the building is in currently, it's gonna be a while before they need some of those big pieces, but I don't know how timing is to be able to get some of that stuff in.
Yeah, I can't speak to the specifics of the lead time of the equipment. I don't know that a month will absolutely kill the project. I don't think it will, in other words. So I'm happy to gather additional information and bring it back to you guys.
But I guess at the end of the day, to finish the building, if it's gonna take that, it's gonna take that.
Well, and the longer we delay finishing,
Prices could
the
go up.
more it's gonna go
Yeah.
up. So we
Yeah.
could be right back here trying to finish it with more money later.
Absolutely. So,
My one worry about going into the project and maybe trying to trim this and trim that and you're left, let's say you don't put the generator in. The first ice storm
yeah,
and we lose food, we're gonna be right back here debating about putting a generator in, and it's gonna be $60,000
And at the end of the
instead
day,
of
that's
$50,000.
$50,000 we're looking at, that's, is what it is. All right, everybody's questions satisfied? It's a large amount of money. However, I will make a motion that we approve this budget amendment number 9.
Have a motion by Commissioner Dawson to approve this budget amendment number 9. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Dottie Robinson. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
But I will ask Mr. Manis if you'll still get that breakdown for us so we can at least see it, so we know.
Yeah.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay, I guess we can go on to that next item now, the public forum. Is there anyone signed up that's not here for either one of the public hearings on the variance or the USDA thing? Are you here to speak on another topic? If you would, Mr. Manager, would you read the rules on the public forum?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. The public comment period shall be for the purpose of allowing members of the public to comment on county business or items on the Board of Commissioners' agenda. This period shall not serve as a forum for debate with the county commissioners. Remarks shall be addressed directly to the board and not to staff, the audience, or the media. The chairman shall open the public comment period. Any person who wishes to speak shall approach the podium and announce his or her name and physical address prior to making comment. Any citizen desiring to comment on a matter of public interest within the authority of the Board of Commissioners to legislate in an open forum shall be allotted 3 minutes. Citizens may yield their time on a specific topic by utilizing no more than 2 citizens' time slots. This will allow up to, but no more than 9 minutes. The county manager shall notify the chairman upon the expiration of the allotted time.
Okay. Colleen McDaniel, and it looks like you've got Lori something here and Jenny. Do they need to state their name that they're allotting their time to you?
Misty,
that
do
the
we
way
have
we
it
do
on
it?
the record?
It's just on the sign-up sheet, but she needs to state it when
Okay.
she's speaking.
So you will have a total of 9 minutes, is that what?
That's what I understand, yes.
Okay.
So my name is Colleen McDaniel, and I live at 70 Cedar Street in Baden, North Carolina. 2 other citizens, Jenny Galacia and Lori Carlisle, have given me their 3-minute slots. So they are also citizens of North Carolina.
And if you would state your name and address too for the record. I don't know if
Sure,
you
it's
did.
Colleen McDaniel, 70 Cedar Street, Baden.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. You should have gotten a couple of documents. There are 3 documents altogether that I wanted you to just be able to follow along on my discussion, just my comments, and then I had some kind of supporting documents for you to keep. And the topic is why the Beth Halterwanger Retreat Center should be revived as the Halterwanger Retreat and Nature Preserve, a private nonprofit directed by Colleen McDaniel. Distinguished Commissioners of Montgomery County, there are 3 main aspects to consider. The origin of the Beth Halterwanger Retreat Center must be highlighted first, though. Dr. Al Halterwanger pursued building the center after the tragic suicide of his 28-year-old daughter over 30 years ago. She was a nurse who suffered with addiction. He told me recently, while discussing matters of my request to the county, that he wanted to build a place where people could come and heal in nature, and guided by that belief, the belief that such a tragedy could not happen without something good coming of it. This memorial to his daughter and to his vision has been a greater good for the community, and I'm fully dedicated to continuing his mission of preserving this place for healing. Number 1, the tourist aspects. Halterwanger Retreat has been and could return to a status of a tourist destination and economic asset for the region by enhancing Montgomery County's growing tourism sector that is greatly dependent on the Yadkin River and lake systems and access to the diverse uses of the Uwharrie National Forest. From the county's report of February 2020 on marketing and tourism, the overarching goals greatly align with what the retreat offers. And the following bullet items came directly from the marketing and tourism report. Increased awareness of all that the area has to offer. Increased visitation to the area. Improve image of the area. Will help create sustainable recurring tourism revenue opportunities. Help solve the problem of very limited options for overnight visitors. The lack of hotels is often cited as the biggest weakness. Many feel there are untapped audiences who might enjoy some of the county's offerings. Example, road motorcycle riders, ecotourism enthusiasts, military retirees. It's an excellent place that provides opportunity to better reinforce the Forest System's message, Forest Service's message of preservation and cultural protection, which could enhance the overall story for Montgomery County, highlight and reinforce the commitment to maintaining the area's natural beauty. The Halterwanger Retreat and Nature Preserve will protect this extremely fragile and wild place from continued residential growth while still allowing visitors to share in the resource of the retreat grounds and lodging. Number 2, outreach, education, and preservation aspects. The Halterwanger Retreat and Nature Preserve will serve the community as an outreach designed to enhance connections with nature for healing and personal growth, as a hub of environmental education, activating and promoting preservation of wildlife, culture, and historic sites. We would be partnering with groups like the Yadkin River Keepers for day programs like trash cleanup on the rivers and lakes. We'd work with colleges and university biology, horticulture departments for native plant workshops, plant ID, invasive species removals on public lands. We would partner with research organizations like the Natural Learning Initiative of North Carolina State's School of Design, with whom I've worked closely on many projects. We could have team building and leadership training programs built around environmental awareness, individual responsibility, and civic engagement. And we would work to promote the historic and cultural education revolving around the Uwharrie Native people, archaeological discoveries, current and historic people, places, and events that shape our community. Number 3, I am the right person, and now is the time. Because my passion, experience, and credentials are aligned with the opportunities and capacities of the Halterwanger Retreat and Nature Preserve. I am a licensed North Carolina landscape contractor, a designer, and a North Carolina licensed general contractor. I own and operate a successful landscape design and construction business for over 2 decades. I specialize in children's outdoor learning environments, education gardens, and community food gardens. Examples are, my latest project was the outdoor learning environment at St. John's Lutheran Child Development Center in Salisbury. Another one is Fort Wild at the Charlotte Nature Museum, the natural learning environment of the Sugar Creek Charter School. The Children's Seed Garden at Winghaven Bird Sanctuary, and I also managed Friendship Garden's largest projects, growing food for Meals on Wheels in school, prison, and church and community gardens. I promote native plants and ecological design in all my landscapes, decreasing synthetic chemical dependence in agriculture, horticulture, and landscaping. I have a background in historic preservation and restoration. I've worked intensively with and in the nonprofit sector, coordinating, managing volunteer events, and organizing outreach for effectiveness and high productivity. I'm experienced in grant writing and was the principal investigator on the North Carolina Department of Agriculture research grant received in 2017. Today's call to action for the commissioners. Allow me to breathe life back into this once highly successful and culturally relevant icon, the Haltowanger Retreat and Nature Preserve. It will stimulate the tourism industry of Montgomery County as a destination and hub educational center for natural and cultural heritage. Provide sanctuary for wildlife and people seeking a retreat setting for numerous activities, including charitable and educational programs. And activate and help direct the youth of today by providing programs for environmental awareness as a catalyst for positive change in the world. Learning in a pristine outdoor setting about the wonders of the natural world and how to protect and restore it for future generations. With strategic marketing, planning, and vision, my passion for sharing the beauty and mysteries of nature, we will reimagine and carry on the mission that Dr. Haltowanger set forth over 30 years ago. Building and adapting programs addressing today's needs, we will be able to see this important work continue for decades to come. The Haltowanger Retreat and Nature Preserve will be an asset for tourism in the region. It will serve the community as an important place for healing and personal growth, an educational space with outreach focusing on environmental stewardship and charitable programming, and a gathering destination welcoming all. I am qualified and capable, passionate and willing to take on the challenge of reviving the retreat and its role in shaping our culture. I ask that the county commissioners vote to accept my request to pick up where Dr. Haltowanger left off, and that we begin the process of negotiating steps for the new nonprofit entity, the Haltowanger Retreat and Nature Preserve, so it can resume serving the community as soon as possible. I would like to thank each one of you for your time and thoughtful consideration. Thank you. And the other documents are just there for you to peruse and ask me questions at any time that you like.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
McDaniel.
Was there one more person signed up to speak? There was another name at the top.
My name is Nikki Gabinowitz, but I'm going to be speaking, I'd like to speak about a different issue.
A different topic. Okay. So I guess you can come forward and speak about yours.
Okay. For the record, I'm Nikki Gaffinowitz, and I live on 317 Baden View Drive. That's on Heron Bay, Baden Lake, New London is the postcode. Esteemed commissioners, thank you very much for hearing me out. I would like to talk to you about something that you might well have heard from us already about, and that is Alcoa's pollution on Baden Lake. So I realize that the town of Baden is not in your district, but many constituents of Montgomery County live on that side of Baden Lake, and we will all be impacted. We're all very concerned about Alcoa's recent proposal to divert their stormwater from Little Mountain Creek into Baden Lake. They have consistently failed to meet effluent limitations for cyanide and fluoride, which they did until last month, hope to dilute directly into Baden Lake as a temporary measure. Luckily, that it was declined by the EPA last month after a highly publicized online petition by ourselves and email writing campaigns, possibly to you all. The Yadkin Riverkeeper believes that the only long-term effective solution will be to excavate the most dangerous of the highly contaminated sites in and around the town of Baden, which is in Stanley County, as you know, like Alcoa has already done under Superfund conditions for their plants in Vancouver, Washington, Point Comfort, Texas, and Messina, New York, in past decades. So as a quick bit of background for the audience who isn't up to speed, Alcoa arrived in Baden in 1970, where it owned 130 acres, and until 2007 operated an aluminium smelting plant driven by the hydroelectric power there. By 1988, when the EPA classified spent potliner, their byproduct, as hazardous waste, the company had been burying this potliner and other detritus in dozens of unlined and often open dump sites in and near West Baden for going on 60 years. For example, in 1991, a buildup of methane gas emanating from a dump ignited, and its flames and smouldering lasted for 3 months. And a hazardous landfill directly next to Baden Lake collapsed in 1987. It was recapped in 1997. Then another landslide was patched over in 2006 by Alcoa. Nonetheless, groundwater samples taken in 2011 and 12 showed that the levels of cyanide and fluoride, despite all this capping, were roughly unchanged.
Excuse me, your 3 minutes is up.
Oh,
Can I give her my 3? I think Jackie, I saw what he did.
thank you.
So I will then do my 3.
Thank you very much. Okay, leaping ahead. Alcoa left town in 2010, renamed themselves Baden Business Park, and left behind a lot of dirty laundry. Our community believes the time has come to call out Alcoa loud and clear for the 30 years it's dodged dealing with its toxic legacy that directly affects residents and constituents of Stanley and Montgomery. I'm one of them. We live on Heron Bay, where property and tax rates are higher. But like everyone in this room, we're all NIMBYs in the sense that we all need to defend ourselves from the destruction created by legacy big industry, who's no longer even a local employer. So what would we like from the EPA and the DEQ? We need comprehensive and transparent soil and water testing in and around, and especially downstream of the Yadkin PD River. As I think it's possible that the town of Sanford might actually at some point be drawing on the Yadkin River downstream for their drinking water. And the DEQ should publicly require Alcoa to fully remove contaminated soil, treat the groundwater, and conduct additional investigations of all of the other potential disposal sites. And what would we like from you, county commissioners, in drawing your attention to this? Well, we're about to ramp up our publicity, and I think you'll see us around wearing T-shirts and QR codes all over the place, getting people to support our cause, sign petitions, write to anybody they can think of. As I said, the time has come to hold Alcoa to account in this corner of our state. Recognizing this makes you, our representatives, we hope, into our invaluable allies. Once again, and here in person, we residents of Baden Lake implore our local officials to be our allies and assist us in any way you can. Keep your ears to the ground in our quest to preserve our health and the health of our environment, with its bald eagles and ospreys, and my favorite, the swallows and the kingfishers, and the desirability of Baden Lake as a popular and beautiful location to live and enjoy the recreation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here that would like to speak that didn't sign up? Okay. We'll move along. The next item is the public hearing. Mr. Manager, would you take it?
Okay. The first public hearing is the approval of a resolution for the permanent financing of the Montgomery Central High School project. To finance the Montgomery Central High School project, which includes the career and technical education building. The county entered into interim financing agreements in 2018 and then again in 2020. And the principal amount of those interim financing agreements was $67,675,000. Remember that number. Now that the school is substantially complete, which was October 20th, 2020, and has received the certificate of occupancy, which was obtained February 12th, 2021, the county can move forward with securing permanent financing through USDA, which would then satisfy the interim financing. The permanent financing is actually via 8 separate installment purchase contracts, which is another word for, a fancy word for loans, that total $67,678,000. The $3,000 difference is due to funding increments allowable under the interim financing. We had to finance in increments of $5,000, so we rounded down for the interim financing, and now we're rounding up for the permanent financing. I know it's only $3,000 in the grand scheme of things, but that would explain the difference. The term of the financing is for 40 years at an interest rate of 2 1/8, resulting in an annual principal and interest payment of $2,529,129. The annual debt service payments for fiscal years 2022 through 2025 will come from fund balances in and future contributions to the county's consolidated high school fund. Expiration of existing debt service payments of approximately $2 million in fiscal year 2025, combined with proceeds from the existing 4-cent tax levy, will be enough to satisfy debt payments in fiscal years 2026 and beyond. Barring a change in this funding format, no specific adjustment to the ad valorem tax rate should be required to satisfy the debt service for the Montgomery Central High School project. It should be noted that the county is estimated to realize a savings of approximately $400,000 annually due to a more favorable interest rate with the permanent financing. And as a reminder, this is a public hearing in which the public is welcome to make comment on the proposed financing agreement.
Is there anyone here that would like to speak in the open public comment for the USDA refinancing? Seeing there's no one here, any comments from the board? Well, we will close the comment period. And would someone like to make a motion that we approve this?
I move we approve the resolution approving installment purchase contracts to accomplish long-term financing of public school facilities, approving certain other documents and actions relating thereto, and authorizing certain actions in connection therewith.
So motion's been made by Commissioner Dottie Robinson. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Seconded by Commissioner Hassel. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. The next public hearing is the variance -02-2021 Lynn Roth. At this time, I'm going to need a motion to recess the Board of Commissioners and convene as the Board of Adjustments.
I will make a motion to recess the Board of Commissioners and a motion to convene as the Board of Adjustments.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Dawson. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second's been made by Commissioner Kay Robinson. All in favor? Any opposed? The next part of it is, anyone here that's going to be giving factual evidence or testimony to this item? We're going to need you to stand and be sworn in.
Come up there. You can stay there. Okay.
So you just want me to read the part now?
Mm-hmm.
Do you solemnly swear to affirm that the evidence or testimony that you are about to provide is factual and truthful to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The next part of it is the staff report.
Good evening, County Commissioners.
Let me know if is the presentation working on your screens?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So my name is David Putnam. I'm the, current planner for Montgomery County at the moment. Today we're talking about variance 2, 2021. This case in particular is dealing with variances regarding setbacks. So in front of you, you should have an agenda packet, or I should say a variance package, if you will, of 8 attachments. I'm just going to briefly run through those. The first one is the applicant's application. The second one is the staff report. Third follows the site plan of the proposed use. The fourth is a septic field statement, so from our environmental health director. The fifth is a copy of the plat map, A229. Sixth is the copy of the deed and page. Seventh is current zoning, and then eighth attachment is a street view. Well, really, it's an aerial view of the property. So I'm just going to jump right into the staff report and review the case, the request, the applicant's intended use, and staff findings. So the request for variance 2, 2021 is for Mr. Lynn Ruth. He's requesting full setbacks on his property located at 0 Lake Point Circle, New London, North Carolina, 28127. This parcel is further identified as ID number 667305187624 and described as lot number 80, shown on plat map A229 and 230, as well as deed book 827, page 503. So the current zoning of the property and surrounding uses is residential 1. And that's to complement single-family detached housing. As far as watershed and floodplain, the property is not located within a floodplain hazard area. However, it is located in a watershed 4 critical area. The property is, however, exempt from the watershed regulations, as the proposed land disturbance, which at this point is 0, does fall under 1 acre of land disturbing activity. As far as water and waste disposal, that parcel is not currently serviced, and the proposed use for the parcel is not to be serviced by water or septic. I'd like to review the applicant's comments in relation to the requirements that we have for variances, which I'll go through very briefly. So variances for Montgomery County require that, number 1, unnecessary hardship is applied to the applicant if we follow strict application of the ordinance. So if we're reading it verbatim, if we're very textualist in how we're enforcing the ordinance, that's when this hardship may arise, which triggers the question of, well, maybe I should apply for a variance. Number 2, the hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property, such as location, size, and topography. Hardships resulting from personal circumstances, as well as hardships resulting from conditions that are common to the neighborhood, may not be a basis for granting a variance. Number 3, the hardship cannot result from actions taken by the applicant or the property owner. The act of purchasing the property with the knowledge that the circumstances exist may in fact justify the granting of the variance and should not be regarded as a self-created hardship. And then finally, the requested variance should be consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance, such that the general public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved, I should say. So if you refer to attachment 3, that site plan, you can see that the property is limited in space. It's surrounded by roadways. This in fact makes it have what our ordinance has coined double frontage lot. So it's facing front setbacks from 2 sides. And then the rear setbacks are also 20 feet, and it's facing those rear setbacks from two sides as well. So, you know, it is limited in space, and it's a peculiar lot. Again, number two, it's almost repeating that narrative of this. The property is subject to unique property lines. So there is some existing built-upon area, but this built-upon area right now is non-conforming. What the applicant wants to do is remove the two non-conforming buildings, go through this variance process, and then if awarded or granted the variance, the applicant would like to create a personal storage facility there of comparable size that's demonstrated on attachment 3 of your packet. And number 3, as far as when the applicant purchased the property, which I think is most applicable to this, the applicant did purchase the property on June 17th, 2019, with the intent to try and build something and remove those existing non-conforming buildings. Now, the applicant in his application mentions that his current property that he has also in the same neighborhood, lot number 88, that property in fact is also peculiar in size and is too restrictive for him to build a storage facility that he would like. So the applicant went ahead and purchased this property and is now trying to build this said storage facility or unit on that property. But he is seeking a variance in order to do so. Finally, I would like to review the intent of setbacks for number 4 of our variance criteria. So the intent of the setbacks is to ensure that structures are located outside of any floodplain, which we reviewed. This is not in a floodplain area. And that there is a uniform buffer maintained between structures and other elements related to the county's character that are preserved for the enjoyment of the public. However, this property does not face the water, and I think that's an important fact to make. And also, it's important to note that the property is located within a watershed 4 critical area, but it's currently exempt from those regulations because the proposed work is less than an acre. The proposed structures will currently encroach on the setback lines. This would affect the roadway right-of-way, which is another element that the setbacks are really designed to preserve. However, all adjoining and adjacent property owners were notified of this request as required by law, so we sent mailings to them. And we also posted signs at the property so that people, as they're driving through, they could see, you know, that there's going to be a public hearing soon, and they could call our office and really determine what that was about. So as far as staff findings, the existing parcel does feature a series of unique property lines. I like to call it the diamond parcel. It almost looks like a cartoon diamond. It exposes the property to a unique amount of setbacks in the Baden Lake area. In this particular case, the property and setback lines are highly limiting, and thus the likelihood of a compliant building ever being placed on the property is questionable, right? So as far as attachment 3, I think it does an excellent job as evidence to demonstrate that a site plan is further constrained through the nature of the lot by illustrating the setbacks. This variance request, it's important to note that it will not change the zoning of the property, nor will it allow for any use that's not permitted in a residential 1 district. And I should also make note, this staff finding was made prior to any presentation of the applicant or property owner. It is the responsibility of the property owner or applicant to submit sufficient evidence to meet the 6 required policy guidelines as noted in Article 6, Section 3.2. Briefly, I want to review an idea of, a motion if you guys were to grant this variance, what a motion would look like. So staff, after reviewing this case, they're recommending that a 15-foot variance be granted for the applicant if you decide to grant a variance to begin with, and that you also consider, so that would be the front variance, and then you consider a 10-foot rear setback variance. So the way that variance works is what you grant as a variance acts like a negative number towards the setback that's already in place. So if you grant a 15-foot variance and there's currently a 30-foot setback for the front setback line, this would make the new setback 15 feet. So staff is recommending a 15-foot front setback variance, a 10-foot rear setback variance, and a 0-foot side setback variance because after further investigation, it did not appear that the property was subject to any side setback lines. And then after further review, staff recommends that the lot be combined by deed with lot number 88 that the applicant already owns. This would ensure that the lot would be preserved and not be subdivided for the future intent of somebody to maybe potentially remove this building and create a housing unit or something akin to that. So the lot as it sits right now, the lot in itself is non-conforming because it does not comply with the county's minimum lot size requirements. If you were to grant the variance and make it contingent on the combining of lot number 88 and lot number 80, this would ensure that that lot would always be affixed to lot number 88 as an accessory lot. It would be combined using a survey that would demonstrate a parcel hook connecting lot number 80 to lot number 88, and that survey would be a tool used to develop a deed, a revised deed that would then recombine those lots. Furthermore, this by doing so, you would also preserve some of the ordinance regulations that the county does have. The county takes a very strong stance on not allowing accessory structures such as a storage unit being built on a lot with no primary dwelling unit. So this would ensure that the lot is affixed to a lot that already has a primary dwelling unit, and it would never change that intended use. So that concludes my presentation.
Thank you for that report. The next is the statement from the owner.
Okay, I'm Lynn Ruth, 6776 Island Oak Drive. I live in Liberty now, but we purchased our house on the water in Baden Lake almost 9 years ago, and we love Baden Lake, so we are wanting to retire there. So 9 or 10 years, we're hoping that's what's going to happen. So like Mr. Putnam said, we would like to add a storage unit to the house we have now, but I don't have room for that, so we purchased this lot with the intent of doing that, you know. So when we leave in the summertime or end of the summer, I don't have to take our jet skis and our boats and store them somewhere else. I want my own place right there. Our house is very small, just stuff that when we retire, that's what we're going to want to do, you know. I don't know anything else to add to it except for, you know, I do have more signatures from I think about 6 of my neighbors. It's all or is fine with it. I have no problem. They say if you do this lot like you've done your house, we know it's going to be kept up and probably make it look a lot better, and our value to our house and our property would be better. I have promised them it wouldn't be a metal building. I want to build a stick building, you know, with a shingle roof or metal roof, that kind of thing, to look presentable for everybody, not to make anybody else mad or hurt their property value at all either, you know. So I guess that's about it.
Anyone have any questions? I guess that's good. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Is there anyone else here from the public that would like to comment to this variance? Anything else?
Yeah, so staff would like to add that although it does not appear there's anybody here to support Mr. Ruth in the public comment session, he did receive multiple letters of support on the project that he's proposing. So I've included those letters that I've secured in your agenda packets to be used as evidence to help you make a determination. As you can see in the agenda packet letters, these individuals who are identifying themselves in these letters of support, they're giving their full name, they're giving their address that they currently live at. They should also be giving the property that is in the neighborhood as well. And I do believe that Mr. Ruth has additional letters that we can enter into evidence as staff develops the findings of facts so that we can affix it to this particular case. So, and Mr. Ruth, do you have those letters that you would like to share?
Yes, we have 6 more, yes.
And are you willing to combine the property, the deed? Okay.
Yes, sir.
May I ask another question? I
Okay.
know per the request, you were looking at a larger variance. So you were looking at a 30-foot variance in the front and a 20-foot variance in the rear. However, we're looking at, from a staff standpoint, lessening that to 15 and 10. How
Yes.
does that work within your
That-
design?
That would be perfect because the size of the building I have in mind is like a 30 by 50.
Okay.
And if we go with those other setbacks, I would have to make the building smaller, it wouldn't fit. Eaves is the thing, you know, like if you build a 16-inch overhang on the eave, I think the way I understand Montgomery County, the eave counts, not just the wall, so that would make it even, build the building smaller, so that's why we're asking for for that.
But based on what Mr. Putnam said, the 15 and the 10, that would
Exactly,
work?
yes,
Okay,
yes, ma'am.
all right, thank you.
Any more discussion from the board?
I do need to make a motion to close the public comment period. So I do make that motion.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Dawson to close the comment period. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second's been made by Commissioner Dottie Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The next part is the motion for action on the variance. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the staff recommendation for the variance on the lot.
Have a motion by Commissioner Hassel to approve the setbacks, I guess, the 15-foot and the 10-foot. Do I have a second?
I would like to add to that too, the affixing to the primary dwelling, so combining deed with lot 89 and 80. We need to add that to that
Okay.
motion.
This lot 88.
88 and 80,
Yes.
right? Yes,
Thank you. Are you seconding the
I
motion?
am.
Seconded by Commissioner Dawson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So now I need a motion to adjourn the Board of Adjustments and return to the Board of Commissioners.
I make the motion to adjourn the Board of Adjustment and
Reconvene.
to reconvene as Board of Commissioners.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Dottie Robinson. Do I have a second?
second.
Second's been made by Commissioner Kay Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The next item is the county manager's report on the Little River Line project.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, we're requesting approvals for two items in one here. The first is the approval of a capital project ordinance for the Little River Water Line crossing at Pekin Road. And the second item is the award of a construction contract to J. Smith Civil LLC. So in September of 2018, Hurricane Florence washed out the county's water line that crosses the Little River on Pekin Road. The damage from Hurricane Florence resulted in a major disaster declaration for North Carolina, which then enabled the county to receive federal assistance in replacing the damaged water line. The project to replace the line includes the installation of 239 feet of 12-inch ductile iron pipe and 777 feet of 16-inch HDPE pipe, as well as the associated professional services. The county originally accepted bids on February 9th, 2021, but failed to receive the minimum number of bids required by general statute. The project was re-advertised and a second round of bids was received on March 2nd, 2021. The section of water line is a critical piece of the county's distribution system, as it is most efficient in delivering water to the southern and eastern portions of the county. And the reason there's a budget amendment included here is even though FEMA will likely fund the entire project, the Local Government Budget and Fiscal Control Act requires that all expenditures be accounted for in a budget. And this is a project budget, independent of our operating budget. So at the time that I drafted this staff report, FEMA had confirmed the county was eligible for $751,900 in federal assistance. Obviously, the bids are more than that, and the associated professional services. We were told today, we received verbal confirmation today that the county will be eligible for the balance of the funding. So barring the unforeseen, FEMA should pay for the entire project, including professional services. So the staff would recommend approval of both the project ordinance and the award of the construction contract to J. Smith Civil LLC.
Any discussion? Someone like to make a motion then that we approve both of these items?
I move we approve the capital project ordinance for the Little River Water Line Crossing, Pekin Road, award the construction contract to Smith Civil LLC, and the unit price contract amount of $1,058,378, and authorize the county manager, clerk, finance director, and attorney to execute the necessary documents to effectuate the contract on behalf of the county.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Dawson. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second's been made by Commissioner Dottie Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The next item is the discussion of the war monument at the courthouse. Do you have any information, Mr. Manager?
I don't have much to add. I understand that the county appointed a committee 6 months to a year ago, and some recommendations were made to the county regarding the monument. Since that time, I'm new, and we have 3 new commissioners, and I believe it was suggested that maybe there would be some revisiting of the issue with perhaps some additional input from some other folks.
Yeah, so last year there was the monument committee, there was some written recommendation, and then when it was presented to the board, it was different recommendations, so it was postponed until December. And then in December, we committed to the fact that we would do some additional work. There would be, we kind of tabled this discussion until us new folks had time under our belt, and committed to putting together a committee of multiple parties, so kind of the Preserve the Monument group, the NAACP, as well as members of the Monument Committee. There is a Monument Committee that exists in this county. As well as there was some work we needed to do from an understanding state laws, you know, what can and cannot be done based on the North Carolina Preservation Act. So I do know we need to move forward with this committee, which means we need to reach out to some folks. I do know we have some folks here tonight that are interested in being part of that committee. Those folks that are here tonight, can you stand up and give your name so at least we have it on record?
Chase Lawson.
Chase Lawson.
David Dunn.
David Dunn.
Stephen Campbell.
Stephen Campbell. And you would be on the side of Preserve the Montgomery County War Monument Group, correct?
Yeah.
All right. So
By
that,
your leave, we do have a question concerning this. In that it's understood the Monument Committee is currently in place. Is this ad hoc committee to work in conjunction with, collectively with, or independently from the established Monument Committee?
I would think you need to have representation from the Monument Committee, someone from the Monument Committee to work, not the entire committee. So we need to find folks who would be interested from the Monument Committee that would want to come collaborate, as well as the NAACP, those folks. So it would be a combination of the three groups to really, I mean, talk about things, right? Because, you know, obviously there are some things we have to determine legally, what the legalities of things are, but also would like to have an opportunity for groups with difference of opinions to come together and be able to speak, and then come before the board and deliver kind of what your findings are, or I don't know the right words, but it would be nice to see how we can work together to come up with what is the right approach.
I would like to ask that the county manager contact the people on these other committees and get with Mr. Campbell and set up a group.
I agree.
Would you do that, Frankie?
Yes, ma'am.
And by your leave, I'd be happy to work with the manager and get him the information that we have.
Thank you.
So there was
And
no
then make a
one,
report back to, they make a report back to us on the recommendation.
Mhm.
no one was here from NAACP?
Yeah, he'll contact Damon and get somebody from that too.
Is any more discussion on that? I guess the next item is the brunch bill ordinance, the ABC board. Mr. Manager, would you bring us up to speed?
Mr. Chairman, this item is actually a carryover item from last month, and it is an ordinance that will enable an activity versus restrict an activity. The ordinance is authorized by general statute to allow a county or other local government to permit alcohol sales early on Sunday, and I believe that's starting at 10 o'clock. It's commonly referred to as the brunch bill. To allow alcohol sales on Sunday, it will require the adoption of the ordinance. And I believe this, the recommendation or the request originated from our local ABC board.
Did. And I know we discussed this a little bit, so we had a presentation of it last month. So I will again move with a motion that we adopt the ordinance that allows the sale of alcoholic beverages starting at 10 o'clock on Sunday versus noon, which is what it currently is.
Have a motion by Commissioner Dawson to approve this brunch bill. Do I have a second?
A second.
Seconded by Commissioner Dottie Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I oppose.
One opposed. Thank you. The next item is the Halterwanger Retreat, property disposal options. Do you have anything on this, Mr.
Well, I will add to, this again is a carryover item from last month. I did not have the privilege of analyzing your proposal, so my apologies when I drafted the staff report, but I thought I would just review some of the history as I've come to learn in the last 3 weeks, and also present to you guys sort of my recommendation for the project, and present to you some options for disposal should the board consider going in that direction. So the property is actually 3 properties in one. Pfeiffer College at the time, it was referred to as Pfeiffer College in 1989, gifted the retreat portion of the property to the county, and in 1995, a smaller portion, which I believe is referred to as the quarters property, was also gifted to the county. And it's my understanding that these were gifted with no restriction on use or disposition or final disposition. There's actually a third property that I join with those other 2, which is adjacent to the water. It's between the water and the county properties, and that is still owned by Pfeiffer University. The 2 properties that the county owns has an assessed value of a little over $250,000, and it has been estimated by our facilities maintenance folks that about $56,000 in improvements are required to the facility, and there's about $8,000 in annual recurring costs for electricity and other utilities. And thus far, in my 3 weeks, the county organization that is, we have not identified a department or service that would benefit from the use of the facility. There have been some folks voice interest, just as we heard tonight. But it is my recommendation, since I cannot, as a manager, cannot identify any use of the property for our own organization, that the board consider proceeding with the sale of the properties. Attached in your agenda packet on page 95 are the options for disposal of the property. And when I say disposal, that means sale. So we're not throwing anything away when I use the word dispose. So we basically have this item on the agenda for you guys to receive additional information and provide any direction that you see fit, considering the things you've heard from me and the things you heard during the public comment period about additional uses of the property.
So can you briefly, based on if we move to sale, to dispose, what would that look like without me reading this whole little chart?
So it's very common, in most cases, it would have to be a competitive disposal. What I mean by that is it's made available to the general public and anyone has the opportunity to bid on it. Usually there's two ways. There's either, that I've seen most often, someone presents a proposal to the county to buy the property, and the county sees the proposal and says, okay, we're willing to sell it, let's start an upset bid process, whereby giving the general public the opportunity to come in and up the price. And you repeat that process until no one offers any more bids, and then you can vote to accept it or not. The second option that is most common would be a sealed bid process, whereas we advertise the property as surplus. Anyone who wishes to submit a bid to us, an offer to purchase the property, can do so, seal it, maybe there's a deposit requirement included, and then at an appointed time, we would open the bids or the offers to see who's the highest, come back to the board and determine if we want to sell for that highest offer. There is one complicating factor that makes this a little less straightforward, and that's the fact that there's the Pfeiffer property that's adjacent. I know if you're a stockbroker, you can sell things that don't belong to you. I believe that's called a short sale. But I'm not sure how I would be able to sell the Pfeiffer property since we do not own it. So I imagine there's going to have to be some understanding and an agreement between the county and Pfeiffer University before we proceed with a sale. I believe there was an agreement, a lease agreement actually, with Pfeiffer University several years ago that stipulated that if the property is ever to be sold, that it be sold all together. Which does make some sense because there's some interdependence for each owner, for the county and Pfeiffer University. So that would be the complicating factor in the matter. It would be something I would have to investigate and, of course, reach out to Pfeiffer University. And I understand there was some correspondence prior to my arrival, so I would have to resume that correspondence. But if there's no intent to sell, then we'll proceed down that path as well.
Any discussion?
Thoughts?
Would we like to table it and give the manager time to
I make the
investigate?
motion that we proceed with having Frankie check into that and proceed with the sale of the property.
Upon his findings. So I've had a motion by Commissioner Dottie Robinson to get the manager to move forward and make contact with Pfeiffer and
Proceed with sale.
see what he can come up with. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Hassel. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. The next item is East and West High School campuses. You got any information for us on that?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. This again is an item that, just to provide you with additional information, It was briefly discussed at the last Board of Commissioners meeting, the disposition of the East and West Montgomery High School campuses. And since that meeting, staff discovered an agreement that existed, and that is included on page 97 of your packet. In a nutshell, it says that there was an agreement in the beginning that the county would contribute to the school project, and I believe it was over $10 million, a $10 million contribution. And somewhat in exchange, the school properties would come back to the county once they ceased use of the property. And the county intended to use the properties for some sort of economic development. So that was the agreement, and that's where we stand today. In conversations with members from Montgomery County Schools, they have pledged their cooperation in the transfer of the properties to the county. As you guys know, you've probably heard as well as I have, there are several ideas as to the long-term use of the properties. We've had a couple of private citizens reach out about purchasing the property. We've had folks from the state of North Carolina interested in the property for the Department of Public Safety. And of course, we've got the study from the about economic development of specifically the East Montgomery property. So in the interim, the school has voiced a request to use some of the campuses. I believe the house, maybe the auditoriums, and tennis courts perhaps. So I think that there needs to be some additional conversation about their intent, and I can come back to the board and let you guys know the results of those conversations and exactly what the timeline looks like, and what other uses they may want to retain for a short-term, perhaps long-term situation. So more or less wanted to provide you guys with an update based on information that was discovered since our last meeting.
Was the state entity gonna come and give a presentation on what their plans or what their thoughts were on this property?
I'm not sure if they intended to. I can certainly ask them to. In some conversations, they have indicated an interest in particularly the East Montgomery campus to establish some training opportunities for the Department of Public Safety as an extension of Samarkand. They will have to go through an appropriations process to solidify their interest and their ability. I've heard mention of a lease and also heard mention of a purchase, and we've supplied them with some information relative to the school and values and things like that. So,
would that be the wishes of the board, maybe to get them to come and do the presentation?
Was that gonna prevent us from going ahead and moving along with the transfer though?
No,
No, it shouldn't.
Because I think we probably need to go ahead and act on that. They've moved into the new school and they're using
Correct.
Montgomery Central now, and I think we need to proceed with the transfer.
I agree.
That is my recommendation or motion or whatever you need.
All right. Okay, then, Commissioner Dottie Robinson's made the motion to, I guess, go ahead and transfer the property. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Kay Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The next item is the appointment to the Child Fatality Prevention Team. It's appointment of a commissioner. Any volunteers, or do I just pick one? You'd like to do this? So I need a motion to appoint Kay Robinson to this Child Fatality Prevention Team. Do I have a motion?
I will make a motion that we appoint Kay Robinson to the Child Fatality Prevention Team.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Dawson. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Hassel. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The next is an appointment to the Health Advisory Committee. The public utility / engineer citizen.
I don't think we currently, this is something we need to, I don't have anyone yet for those 2 vacancies.
Anybody?
I don't have any recommendations yet either.
Yeah, so
Okay, so
let's
we'll
move
just
this to.
put that off till next.
Mhm.
Well, I spoke with Karen earlier today, the chair of that committee. She said we might as well be looking at the whole committee, because in 3 months, we're going to have a new committee anyway. So if we're talking to people, we need to be talking to people
Mhm.
in the long term.
It's my understanding, as long as we stay as a consolidated board, that is what happens. Everyone's gonna rotate off. If we divide back to an advisory, health board and not consolidated, then they can stay on. So that's something we need to look at.
So meaning if we go back to a true health board,
Right.
that the commissioners do not act as that board, if we go back to a true health board, these guys can all still stay on that board. So I think we need to decide if we want to stay as a consolidated board, or if we move back to what was in place in the county. But that's probably been, I think the number was, it's probably been about 10 years ago
I
that
think
it
was
came
in
together as a,
2012.
was it 2012?
I think that's what Karen and I were
Yeah,
talking
so
about.
9 years
that
ago.
day.
So it moved to a consolidated board, that's when this
I
health
think we need to
advisory.
talk to the health board and the health department and
I
let
do too.
them make the recommendation of what they might want
What
to do
would work
before we
best.
act on that, because I think that's what's happened. They've been told some things to do,
Agreed.
and they need to make that decision.
I agree, yes.
So I think that should involve a conversation probably with the county manager, between the board and the health advisory board and Ms. Perez Baldwin, and let
Mhm.
them kind of decide what they want to do.
And I know in last meeting, Ms. Brantley, when she presented, she even gave us a document, so Mr. Manus, you could get a copy of it, but it listed, really broke down side by side the health board and a health advisory board, so really the things from a responsibility standpoint. And I think there was really only one main
Well,
difference.
actually, what the Board of Commissioners did in 2012 was assume the duties
Mhm.
of the health board.
Right,
And so they were supposed to have the health advisory board to advise us, meet and advise
Right.
us on what to do. They never did
No.
that. And that's why they lost so many members.
Mhm. Correct.
So,
So we'll just table this one too till
Mhm.
next month.
till after we get some kind of recommendation or something.
Okay, the next item is the appointments to the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Have Raymond Dawson, Dawn Braswell, and Kim Barrington.
And I
So-
would like to say before, I would like to ask the board if you feel I need to recuse myself from this piece, because Ray Dawson is my
I
husband.
think probably.
So I will recuse myself from,
Do you think you'll be biased on this one?
well, I mean, I think I'll just.
She'll be trying to tell him what to do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that'll work. So
Wow.
I will not vote on him.
I make the motion that we approve these appointments to the JCPC.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Dottie Robinson. Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Seconded by Commissioner Hassel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Well, Mr. Manager, this is, I guess, your part now here on these county reports. Do you have anything?
Nothing I'll point out specifically. I will attempt to answer any questions you guys may have. And other than the county reports, I have no other business.
Anyone have anything else? Hearing none, if someone would like to make a motion that we adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Hassel. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second's been made by
Kay did.
Commissioner
Took
Kay
your mask
Robinson.
off, Kay.
All in favor?